Hello, BookTube, and welcome back. Well, this is the first time I've come back and done this for I think 3 months now. Or could be. I think it is in December. I like what I read in that month. Yeah, so I've not done it for January or February, but I'll do it for you now. A lot of the books I read in January and February are. I was about to say to you January was rereads, but it really wasn't. January reading was heavily classics because if you've watched this before, every birthday and every Christmas, I get the Penguin Cloth Band classics. I get about 5 or 6 of them, and I knocked them all out in January. And then February was a lot of rereading because I was working quite heavily, and I needed just something I already knew, and it doesn't take that much time to digest, because you already knew it. But yeah, again, a lot of the books this month are rereads, and I'm also watching the time. I've got 16 minutes. I can't go over 16 minutes. I've got like a BBC News flash up here saying 16 minutes left. You know what I'm like? I'm a waffler. I'm waffling now. So I think I read 11 books I haven't counted them, but they're in front of me here. 11 books in March, and a lot of them, again, was a reread. So let's just go over them and I'll tell you what I thought of them. So, do you know what? I'll do all the rereads. And the rereads are 1, 4, 5, 6, 7. So 7 books were rereads. So, hang on, 1, 2, yeah. So 7 rereads and 4 new ones. That's how much rereading I've been doing. Waffling again. The first reread, the first reread was, am I saying that right? Do you know when you've said something too many times and you just like lose all kind of like, I don't know, you're waffling. The first book, it was Equal Rights. This is by Terry Pratchett. It's one of the first few ones. I think Equal Rights is book number 3 in the Discworld series. It's where Granny Weatherwax, who is like a head witch, takes a young girl who Granny thought she could train her as a witch, but she can't. She's very much needs to be trained as a wizard. But at this point in the Discworld series, the wizards, the Unseen University for wizards, are just pure male. And it's all about Granny trying to get, I think it's Esmeralda, something like that, to get trained in the Unseen University and the challenges that pose. I love me some Discworld. They're all absolutely funny. I love the light-heartedness of all the Discworld books. And yeah, this is equally as good. I enjoyed it. Second one is the Lord of the Rings. Pardon me. I've read pretty much all of the big Middle-earth books through January to March. In January, I read all the Christopher Tolkien books, so The Children of Hurin, Beren and Luthien, The Fall of Gondolin. I read The Fall of Numenor as well in the first. If you've absolutely no idea what Middle-earth is, this is going to go straight over your head, I know. And in February, I reread the Silmarillion, Unfinished Tales, and The Hobbit. So now I'm rereading The Fellowship of the Ring, The Two Towers, and The Return of the King by J.R.R. Tolkien. Now, I love Lord of the Rings. I've been doing what I've just said for about 15 years. I've read them a lot. I enjoy reading them. But I still think the film was better. Yeah, there's a lot of things that the film does a lot better than the books. I mean, given Aragorn not such a linear path. In the books, Aragorn is, kind of Arthurian legend where he is the king and he's gonna be king regardless. Whereas in the films, you've not seen the Lord of the Rings, Aragorn's is more reluctant kind of leader. He's pulled into it, and then he eventually becomes the king. And characters like Gollum. In the films, Gollum has a bit of a redemption arc, doesn't he? It's short, where he turns back into Smeagol or what's going to happen here. In the book series, that doesn't really happen. And I know a lot of people say, "Oh, Tom Bombadil's not good." I'm not the biggest fan of Tom Bombadil. I think if you need to take those Tom Bombadil chapters out and maybe chuck them in the Hobbits or something like that, I think that's where they belong, to be honest with you. I know the big arguments around Tom Bombadil are, there's something that's above everything, above the fray, but they take the ring into the old forest, and Tom just tries the ring on and doesn't get affected by it at all. Kind of robs the ring of some of its power, doesn't it? It's really early as well in the Fellowship of the Ring. Like, just give the ring to Tom. I know. It's disgusting. The Council of Elrond, you can't leave it to Tom because he'll lose it or whatever. But yeah, I'm not the biggest fan of Tom Bombadil. He comes over singing, there's Tom again. I know that's sacrilegious for those of you who love reading Lord of the Rings, and I love reading Lord of the Rings as well. So what other thing I noticed, I'm waffling again, I don't care. So what other thing what I noticed as well when I was rereading the Fellowship of the Ring is when Frodo is supposed to be undercover at this point as Mr. Underhill, and they get to Bree, and Frodo does a distraction when he's supposed to be undercover and starts singing and dancing on the tables in Bree. What you want to grab him and paintbrush him? What are you doing? You're supposed to be hiding. Oh, I don't know why Aragorn didn't give him a good thrashing at that point. But yeah, with The Lord of the Rings, I think each book gets progressively better as well. To the point I really do enjoy The Return of the King. One of my favourite characters is Theoden, King of Rohan. Yeah. So I reread The Lord of the Rings again. I also reread Royal Assassin. It's up there somewhere. Yeah. Again, I love these copies of the Robin Hobb's Realm of the Elderling series. Royal Assassin is the second book of the first trilogy for pardon me, the characters Fitz and Phil. Fitz is like this royal bastard, and at this point, the king's pretty much useless at this point. He's pretty much nearly dying, lost his wits, and one of the king's son is trying to. There's all these raids going on all over the duchy, and he's trying to like telepathically or telekinetically or whatever, trying to push them away. And the king's other son is trying to get the throne, to be the because that's his older brother and he's the younger brother, so he wants to push the older brother out the way and then get rid of the king who's losing his wits so he can rule the duchy. And it's all about Fitz, who's the main character, who is the bastard, trying to make sure that doesn't happen and make sure his rule stays the same. And Fitz is a trained assassin, and that's what the general gist is as well. And there's something called beast magic in the Realm of the Elderling series, where a person can have a really strong bond with a animal and take on some of their not really their abilities, but they get enhancements from them, and he can get a really close bond. But it's absolutely despised throughout the duchy, so he's got to keep it secret. And he makes Fitz makes like a bond with a wolf called Night Eyes. I love me some Night Eyes, I really do. But yeah, so this book, Night Eyes, is introduced. The king's oldest son's got to go away on a journey, and it's up to Fitz to try and keep everything together and to stop the king's younger son from trying to usurp the crown and get rid of his older brother. Great stuff. I love all of the Realm of the Elderling series, and yeah, all these books are great. I'm not going to complain at all. I love me some Robin Hobb. Next one. Okay, this is, I think, I've read these a few times as well. I think it's a trilogy. I know there's 6 books in total, but I've only read the first 3. And it can either be read as the first one as a standalone, and then you can either read the first trilogy or the second trilogy. You can either separate them like that. And this is Duncan. Which one's this one? Duncan Quest. So it's the second one of the first trilogy. I read Duncan Woods in the last month. I'm going to read Duncan Quest next month. And yeah, as I said, I've read this about 4 or 5 times. And I don't know what it is. It reminds me of spring. That's why I read it this time of year. And you're going to roll your eyes because this is about anthropomorphic moles. And I absolutely adore it. But it's more on the flavour of like a Watership Down. Now, this is how it's kind of presented. Some of it can be utterly brutal. The first book, Duncan Woods, is like an allegory of like paganism. And the second and third book's more of an allegory of Christianity, and oh God, just so much, so much mole violence in this book. But I absolutely adore it. The characters are so well written. If you're interested in that kind of stuff, pick up the Duncan. Can't remember. I think the actual trilogy is called the Duncan Chronicles. I think, or maybe that's the second trilogy. Whatever. The first book is called Duncan Wood. It's by William Horwood, and that sounds like it's your jam. It's a Watership Down kind of mole-based society, and they're trying to push back like against evil moles, and it's all good stuff. Yeah. So that is Duncan Quest, and I've noticed I'm on 11 minutes. So the next reread is Caliban's War. This is by S.A. Corey. This is the second book in the Expanse. I love me The Expanse. I've read the reason why I'm rereading it, because I've read 8 and I've just got the new one, which is horizontally 9, and I've not read that yet. So I've got to just re-jog my memory and read the previous 8, because I'm not the sort of person who goes on Wikipedia or Goodreads, and just like gets a quick brief. I need to read the whole book. So Caliban's War, make it short. It's a alien proto-molecule where it landed on Venus, is now coming out and starting to go crazy, like an alien kind of invasion. The Earth and Mars are kind of like really button heads, and it's a politician called, is it Ava Solaria? It's something like that, and she's like works for the UN, and she's trying to like calm things down. William Holden, who's like the main character, I think he's in all of them. He's looking for a scientist's daughter, and there's like this really crazy warrior thing that's slaughtering people on the one of the comets called Ganymede. Not comets, what are they called? Moons, whatever they are. The moon of Ganymede, and it's the thing's basically slaughtered a whole military platoon, and there's a one survivor, and it's basically getting revenge on it, and it's all good stuff. It's all space opera stuff, It's really, really good stuff. If you're not read The Expanse and you love your sci-fi, pick it up. I've not seen the TV series, so I can't speak on it, but The Expanse is a fantastic sci-fi opera, or military sci-fi, whatever you want to call it. Next one, I picked this up before the Americans and the Israelis decided to launch a full-out war against Iran. So this is, the dog. The dog's outside and he's absolutely going nuts to this cat. Oh, bless him. So this is Rise and Kill First by Ronan Bergman. So this is basically how Israel's done targeted assassinations, and how they sometimes have failed and sometimes have greatly achieved what they've done, or maybe gone completely overboard. And yeah, so this is talking about the birth of the Mossad and the Shin Bet, and how it goes through the pre Second World War, and then the forming of the country in 1948, and then the absolutely headbutting that they had with the British, where it went so bad. Well, they were killing British officers and stuff like that, but they sent assassins to the UK to try and kill our foreign secretary, as one does. And it basically goes through, Israeli Expanse with, targeted killings. Obviously, they talk about Yasser Arafat, Palestine. It's all that kind of stuff. I understand if you don't want to pick up the book at this point in time, but it's an extensively researched, well written book. I mean, the guy's a reporter and he knows his stuff, and it's a bit of a chunker. I'll give it that, but it's a really, really good book, and that's Rise and Kill First. The next one is 1,000 Ships by Natalie Hayes. This is a book that my brother decided to. I'm on 15 minutes. I got 1 minute left. I'm doomed. 1,000 Ships. This is a retelling of the mythology of the Trojan War. So Greek mythology, But this is from the perspective of the females in the story. Weirdly enough, not much on Helen of Troy, which is basically the main female character in the Trojan War. Don't know why the decision not to include her in that. I think she's mentioned in passing, but she's not like a main character at all. So the likes of Penelope is in this. Some of the gods like Hera, Aphrodite are in this. I like Odysseus, and I'm expecting more from the Penelope chapters. But all the basically chapters of Penelope was a recounting of a husband's journey. So the writing was fine, absolutely fine. I'm not a big fan of multiple perspectives all jammed into a small book. I like a bit of meat on the bone. For me, and some of them just didn't work for me. It was a little bit dull, like my critique of the Penelope's perspective, for instance. Yeah, and again, I expect a little bit more. A little bit more digging deep and making up your own little bit of attached mythology on top of the mythology, maybe, but it just wasn't there for me. Okay, my phone is now flashing red. I don't know how long I'm going to last. So, next one is Flat Earth News by Nick Davis. Nick Davis is a very famous... I'm going to talk fast. Nick Davis is a very famous British reporter. He broke the News of the World phone hijacking. Basically, the News of the World was caught, hacking into celebrities' phones, the parents of murdered children, soldiers. You basically blew the lid off all that. And this is a critique of the media. So this is Flat Earth News. It's the whole fake news right now. Yeah. So it discusses, even though he's a journalist and he's worked in that kind of environment, these are the big, to the point where intelligence agencies are feeding news to different outlets, different outlets having massive racial bias. It talks a lot about, pushing not what we should be concentrated on, but complete crap. So it's a proper critique of the media and how it works and how it can be completely disjointed and broken. Talks a lot, obviously, about Rupert Murdoch in this as well. The big media guy himself. And this is a really well written, well researched book. If you're interested in how, in his eyes, how the media works and how it can be broken and manipulated, pick up this book by Nick Davis. How am I still online now? And the last one, book 11, is Lost at Sea by Jon Ronson, which is probably my favourite book this month. My favourite new book of this month. I love me some Jon Ronson. Jon Ronson's very much in the kind of same bucket as, if you know Louis Theroux, he's a documentary. I think he did the last one on the Manosphere, which has been all over the place, hasn't he? And Jon Ronson is, again, he's that kind of a character. But he likes the bizarre. He likes researching the bizarre and the insane and the really. I think his most famous book is The Psychopath Test, where he goes and interviews psychopaths, people who have even murdered people, and asks them a series of questions of what it takes to be a psychopath and see what their answers are. Fascinating book. Pick up the Psychopath Test. But this book, Lost at Sea, it's a series of essays about some of the crazy stuff that he goes and does research about, like the American superhero kind of phase of people just dressing up as superheroes and fighting, low level crime. I understand if you want to do it in like a European country, but hasn't everybody got guns in America? Not for me. And yeah, some of the characters that he meets along the way, there's loads of stuff in this. He goes with UFO people and people who believe in, they've been abducted and all sorts. He goes on like ghost adventures. And it goes sometimes into the dark places with, paedophilia and stuff like that. And but that's his obsession of going into weird or uncomfortable things and just basically asking questions and just talking to people and all that. Pretty much what Louis Theroux does. And yeah, so again, all John Ronson's books. I always want to say John Swanson, but it's John Ronson. It takes a very light-hearted approach in everything he tackles, and he tries to keep it light-hearted in a kind of funny, deliverable way. And again, there's murderers in this that he talks to, and really obsessive people. Just basically a massive collection of some quirky people that he goes and interviews and then writes about. And that was probably my favourite book I read that month. And that's it, folks. I can't believe I've managed to milk another 5 minutes out of my phone. And I will speak to you soon. Bye, BookTube.